Hello, it's Vandana here from the Yoga Therapy Clinic, and I help people with their wellness by teaching them the habits of the yogis. And what I'm going to cover today is about how the biochemical reaction takes place with our emotions, and how there's a long-term aspect of this. It's like a leaky tap that's just slowly in the corner dripping away, releasing all these chemicals in the body, and how it then translates into what I call a messy cycle. So when I was doing some kind of casual reading, came across these analogies, and I thought, well, wonderful thing to share. So I have got a video on messy cycles and sacred cycles, so I'll be weaving that in, and I often talk about thoughts create emotions, create actions. So that is the basis that we'll start with. So as you may have heard in my previous videos, anytime there is a thought, there will always be, I'll write it in full so we come away from abbreviations, there will always be an emotion, and that would always lead to some action. Okay, so in its basic form, I love chocolate, and the thought of someone saying chocolate cake, so that thought, already I'm got saliva, so of course the action's taken place, but the emotions are so quick to come in to then have that action come through in the body. What we've got to understand with biochemical shifts in the body is that this emotion has a charge. Okay, it has a force behind it, some energy that makes this take place. It has to. Okay, so what happens here, this charge under yoga, we've known it as prana. Okay, the prana is the energy, not just the breath. We're talking about the vital force inside the breath. And it's charged so that it will then tell the body what action it needs to take place. What takes place is that the action takes place in the physical body. It takes a while for the brain to register what's happening. So there's two different parts taking place. So this is where this cellular intelligence is so great, and that we can rely on our bodies giving us signs before our brain registers. So the action of the prana will tell the physical body, I need some stuff. Right, and that's a whole chemical process, and that's done with what we call neuropeptides. Okay, and so neuropeptides, I'm talking about chemical reaction. Okay, there's something taking place, and the neuropeptides will then talk to our brain. Okay, so pardon my kind of is that frontal lobe here? Okay, pardon my drawing. But by the time the brain knows it's already released, these neuropeptides already released, what you need to understand for the purpose of today's session is neuropeptides is a one-way kind of communication. It says, go do this, and the body will just go do it. Okay, and then if we don't actually either act on it, that charge, that prana is already in at the cellular level. And so what emotions do you have from long term or short term? And it's got a charge. That prana is going out and tapping away. Go like that. Okay, so we're constantly having this neuropeptides telling us what to do, and it's going in one direction. So why is this important? It's important if your emotions are of a negative charge, i.e. they're not helping the body into an expansive nature. They're not helping the body feel it's okay to be restful in whatever's happening. Often, especially in the busy time, we get stressed. Okay, so this tapping, if we have a stress pattern, it happens so instinctively that we then behave in that way. Over time, what would happen is this kind of reaction, if it's a negative charge, it will then lead to all of our stress, and that stress could translate into sleeplessness. It could translate into bloating, because it could translate into constipation. IBS symptoms, and the list goes on, right? Inability to manage the stress. So if we're constantly like this, what we've got to understand is that how are you going to change it? If it's only one-way communication, how do you change this? So, Lisa, we've got to find a way to then have a positive charge. Right? We've got to do a positive charge somewhere. And so what are these positive charges? So yesterday in our 10 Habit 10 Week program online, someone said, what do you think about positive affirmation? If it's a positive affirmation on top of a negative, it doesn't have a hold. It's like a post-it note that comes off. A positive affirmation is that it's positive from every cellular being, so that that same flow takes place. The action of a positive, so I should use a blue one, the action would be a positive action without you having to do anything, right? And it flows into the body, it creates a neuropeptide, tells the body to create a positive response so that you're not into this one. This is where you are relaxed, right? In the face of whatever's come through, you have a greater sense of clarity, yeah, to make decisions. You have a sense of discrimination. Yeah, all that things that I talk about with our sacred cycle, the sense of wholeness. Okay, if your years of response has been on a negative charge because you instinctively have this feeling of fear, then it's split second, you're going to go into this communication here, and this is your native response, your new native response, because you're born more in this way. Okay, so long-term effect is this will have a cascade of problems. You will go down having medication, and to get a little bit more understanding on this picture and this picture, you want to look at the video called Messy Cycles and Sacred Cycles. So this is the messy cycle, and this is the sacred cycle. Okay, now yoga, always, it's worked on left and right brain, okay, left and right hemisphere, because you'll be doing your poses on left side, right side, or your breathing practices, one nostril to the other nostril. You're always coming to a neutral charge. It becomes very important when you're at neutral, because when you're at neutral, you'll be accessing almost like, what does the soul need? And so it's very important that if you are not programmed, or you don't know how to create this one, you can't just put something on top of this one and let go, because it's a one-way communication. Okay, the more the body is understanding this action, default is here, we have to really create and tap into this one. We want a tap that goes constantly dropping the positive neuropeptides. So this becomes a default pattern. We don't go into that stress, fight or flight, or the anger or the fear. And what happens, because our bodies are not, and our brains are not wired this way, we always come to this way. And we work in the environment, we live in an environment where there's a lot of charge here. So today's session is all about understanding this sacred cycle. Now, to create this, it's not just about mental affirmation. It's about what time you eat. It will have a positive charge. If you eat late at night, when you bring the Ayurvedic view of wellness and tapping into this, eating late at night, it takes 3 to 4 hours for your body to digest food. If that's the case, then it's staying up 3 to 4 hours after you've eaten. So when you've had your meal at 7 o'clock and then you go to bed at 10:30, you're tapping into what they call the fire element. So let's bring this scenario here. I'm going to just take that away because we know what we're talking about here. Let's bring in our Ayurvedic clock, because it really does help change the tap. If you're eating at this time, right, which is at 7 o'clock, this is the earth element, right? Earth and water are downward flowing energy. This is the fire, regardless of when, daytime or nighttime. This is an upward rising energy. So you should be going to bed around this time because it's the most optimal time from a physiology point of view, the cellular structure. If you're not, and you're eating at 7, then you're going to go all into fire. Fire is an upward rising fire. And at night time, it burns the cells. So then you're going into negative charge. So you can put as many positive affirmations in your life, try very hard to get over this, but you are always releasing the emotions, the peptides, one-way communication, saying, I'm stressed, because you're in a fire time when you should be sleeping. And if you try to fall asleep, you wouldn't, which means when you then wake up, and the nice time to wake up is at 4 o'clock. The air is nice and calm. People are still asleep. People walk quietly. There's not a lot of noise. Very, very nice time to tap in. You end up waking at that heavy time again, the earth quality, right? So really, you're not going to feel vibrant and alive. So taking into yoga and Ayurvedic concept, they've always, the lifestyle designed around this. Very important to be able to tap into this and tap into this. The problem we have is our lifestyle and the world we live in doesn't tap into this bit here. So if you're not familiar with this Ayurvedic clock or tapping into that on an incremental basis, then you need to come and talk to me. Okay, we can take you through step by step of what we need to show you. Now, just have a chat. Is this what you want to tap into? Is this what you want to tap into? Now, if this emotion is negatively charged over time, we don't even register. We don't even realize this is how we're responding. This is how deep it can get. So this is where trauma is so deep, we can't actually peel away the layers and see what actually started a behavior this way. So you can unwind. It takes a long time. It's also ancestral patterns that are involved. Now, ancestral patterns meaning that family, if there was emotions whilst you're pregnant, it will go through to the fetal, it will go to the child, and they do come up with certain behavior and you think, oh, that's how they are. But yoga says that you can, with effort and with the right discipline, you can break these ancestral patterns. That's why sometimes if there is a hereditary of, say, heart condition, as it is in my family, I can make conscious choices to not get caught up here because this caused my heart attack. Okay, I repeatedly go to India to keep re-engineering this here, this thought, and tap into this. It's a constant thing, and layers and layers and layers of work, should I say, so years of work. So just recapping this, if you've got any questions, fire them through. But recapping this, thoughts create the emotions. Emotions are the prana, the life force energies. So the force behind the action, okay? So that's the force that will give you negative. When you talk about negative, it might literally be, oh, is that what he said? It could just be that, and you have that response, and then you have this kind of negative aspect of life or negative approach. Oh, I'm gonna be late, I'll never work out, I'm gonna rush around and do this, it's gotta be perfect. All those kind of things is a negative charge because it will always bring you stress. Okay, yogic way is a positive charge. Anytime there's a charge, it's immediately in action and it goes straight into the physical body. Okay, it lodges itself in the body through the neuropeptides that tells the body what to do before you can even know what's happening in the brain level. Okay, so the brain level is, you've got to understand, sometimes we do things like, say for example, your child's about to fall off, if you have a child, and you quickly grab the child and think, oh, that was lucky. The brain will then register that was lucky, but your instincts are so quick. So that's why the body is never lies. It always is there to respond. Okay, brain kicks in later on. Rewiring the brain is important. When do you start to do this? You start to do it ASAP. If you've had 20, 30, 40 years of this dripping away here, it takes a while to get into this place here. So I've been working on a gentleman for the last 4 or 5 years, and finally, he's tapping into this because this is so strong. The trauma is so deep of 40 years of trauma, so deeply embedded that his natural response is to natural response. Yeah, so just can't even control it. It's finally realizing, okay, so there's tools involved. Yoga meditation helps, absolutely, but that's not the only thing. You have to sink into this cycle to a certain extent before you can start to see this kind of natural response taking place. So that's our biochemical response, how you can move from a messy cycle to a sacred cycle. If you've got any questions, give me a call. When's the time to change? It's now. What do you do? You give me a call. Thank you for joining in. I have got a question here, so interesting. If you were pregnant and were going to give away the baby, and would that cause the trauma as they get older? Okay, so I'll read that again. If you were pregnant and was going to give the baby away, would that cause then trauma as they get older? If it's in the physical, it's already registering. It's already registering inside the baby. Okay, so this is why anytime if you are pregnant, you chant to come to neutrality. You've made a decision to give it away, right? You must be wholeheartedly in that decision. Otherwise, it's not the decision you want ultimately from the soul. Okay, so there is trauma that they can feel. Okay, so this is the ancestral trauma. So I'd say there would be some, and then there would need to be work the way through it. This is no different from, I look at people on their tongue, and they've got cracks on their tongue. There's a lot of vata aggravation, and I've got that. And my doctor in India said, look, don't worry about trying to resolve that because there's ancestral patterns. So I've come with already some, whatever the trauma, whatever the emotions are, it is my lifetime at the moment to try and tread over, so that if you believe in reincarnation, that, in my next life, I will be less traumatized. I'll be tapping into this tap here, and I'll be more here. So there's effort required. So hopefully that's answered your questions. If you've got any more questions after watching this video, once again, email, give me a call. Let's start changing our life patterns. Live sacredly. Thank you very much for joining in today.